On Nationwide this evening, how the people of Listowel remember those who fought in World War I and other wars. Also, we meet Irish Army veterans to hear of their experiences of serving in the Congo and elsewhere. No marks for guessing where we are this evening. The statue of John B on the main street in Listowel kind of says it all. This town is renowned for its Writers' Week, for the races, for the food festival, but less well known is the fact that Listowel and its hinterland are steeped in military history. And all this week on Nationwide, we've been focusing on stories of Irish people who've served in military uniform. Now this evening, we're going to be meeting former members of the Defence Forces to hear about their time in Óglaigh na hÉireann. But we're going to begin here in Listowel, where our reporter Marion Malone has been finding out about an event that celebrates and commemorates Listowel's military heritage.
Each summer, Listowel celebrates its rich military heritage with a weekend of exhibitions, concerts, ceremonies and reenactments, all in honour of those who served or died, not only in the two world wars, but in all military conflicts, both domestic and global.
There's a strong tradition of military service in North Kerry, going right back to even the 1600s. This year marked the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo, and apparently the first shot of the battle was fired by a Kerryman, and Lieutenant John Fitzmaurice, he came from Duar, which would be a village outside Listowel. He served in the 95th Rifles. The Duke of Wellington rode up to him on his horse and he told him to fire on the French soldiers which were advancing, and he did, and thus he claimed to have been the first person to fire the opening shot of the Waterloo campaign. North Kerry was the birthplace of Lord Kitchener, who served as Secretary of State for War during the First World War. Of course, his face appeared on the most famous recruiting posters of the First World War, and it didn't even need to mention his name because it just had a picture of him and Kitchener wants you. Well, we're standing on the banks of the River Feel, a few miles downriver from Listowel town in North Kerry, at a place called Ennismore. And the stretch of the river just up from us was called the Dardanelles. And that name recalls the experience of so many Irish soldiers 100 years ago this year who fought in Gallipoli. The story was that there were veterans of the First World War fishing in the river here years afterwards, and one night a terrible thunderstorm came, and the thunder and lightning over their heads was so bad they said it reminded them of the Dardanelles.
It was this wealth of military history that prompted a group of local enthusiasts to stage the first military festival in 2012.
Well, we're here in Listowel in the square in front of the plaque that was erected in honour of all Irish men and women who sacrificed everything in the line of duty. And we commemorate them every year with the Listowel Military Festival, which is held on the May Bank Holiday weekend. Well, 4 years ago we started with 6 reenactors dressed up in World War II uniforms, and we had a few Land Rovers in the square with a vintage car rally. This year we had at least 50 reenactors taking part in the World War II battle, and at least another 100 going around the town dressed up in military uniforms dating back, we'll say, from the First World War right up to present day.
Bei der Laterne wollen wir stehen, einst I wrote my mother, I wrote my father, and now I'm writing you too.
Well, definitely when you're working hard all day you need to relax at night, and what better way to relax than to watch the bombshell bells singing all the songs from the 1940s, because we have a hanger dance every year in the Listowel Arms Hotel, and it's a fabulous night.
I don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me, anyone else but me, anyone else but me, no, no, no. Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me till I come home. marching home.
The military festival is very much a community effort, from the dozens of volunteers who give of their time during the weekend to the local men's shed groups who work tirelessly for months on end to produce important structures for the reenactments.
As you can see, we're here in Ballyduff in County Kerry at the Ballyduff Men's Shed. The Men's Shed in Ballyduff and Listowel have helped us enormously this year with the props for the military weekend. The Men's Shed in Listowel helped us with the hedgehogs, and here in Ballyduff they built us the sentry boxes. This model I just made for it represents a town, a little house in Normandy shortly after the D-Day landings, and you will have the German paratroopers defending their position against the oncoming Allied forces from the beaches. Well, the Listowel Military Tattoo our first year was 2012. Basically my idea for the tattoo came from my own experience and my family history in the Allied forces in the First and Second World War, and I felt that the men who fought in the First and Second World War from Ireland were more or less forgotten, and I felt it was time that their sacrifices and their duty was brought to the fore in Irish history. Going right back, any major war or battle, there has been Irish leading the men and part of the normal ranks. I just thought it was about time where we actually recognised and honoured the men for their sacrifices in leaving these shores to do what they thought was their duty.
Jim Halpin's long-standing passion for all things military resulted in his setting up a military museum. It's an Aladdin's cave of military memorabilia tucked away behind his shop in Church Street.
Well, Marion, it all started back in 1972, being about, 16, 17 years of age. And we were up in a place called Ballydunlee. At that stage we were in the FCA. We were probably first time ever firing a 303 rifle. And of course, on the ground, empty shells, picked them up, and up to the butts, found some old heads that had been flattened into the stones. And I suppose that's really where I started from. It's very hard to put an actual quantity on what we have, but I would imagine it's probably well in the region of about 5,000 different items, maybe even more, maybe could even be up to 10,000. The oldest item I think we would have would probably be about the 1880, 1890. And it's up to basically modern day with uniforms. What we have here is a display I put together for the Writers' Week this year in Listowel. A lot of interest in it, and a pile of interest in this because of being the year it was. Now, what we have here is a medallion. It's basically a replica of the medallion that was struck by the Germans commemorating the sinking of the Lusitania. And as you can see on the medal, you have a skeleton in the ticket office selling tickets to the passengers. And on the back of it then, you have the Lusitania sinking underneath the waves. Well, this display, Marion, has an awful lot to do with, it's got a big influence for why this museum was put together. It's basically our family history of military. This gentleman here is my uncle Jerry Halpin, and alongside him is a friend called Tim Leahy. So Jerry went north, joined the British Army, transferred to the RAF, spent 35 years with the RAF. Now, his brother, who was my father, and my mother's brother, they both joined the Irish Army. They went in 39 and came out in 45. Back in 70, I think it was 72 or 74, I joined the FCA. My son took up the reins then, and he joined what we call the RDF. And he spent about 5 or 6 years in the RDF. So this is basically a collage to the whole family, you know, and we're all proud of it, very proud of it.
There's a poignancy about North Kerry's military history. It's a chronicle of fallen heroes and lives lost. But it's also a heritage their descendants are determined will survive and be honoured into the future in Listowel.
Oh, sweet Listowel, I've loved you all my days. Your shining streets, your towering spires and squares.
Well, our plans at the moment, and including the Listowel and Ballyduff Mint Sheds, is to build a full-scale replica of an RAF Spitfire, and the Spitfire we have chosen to build was flown by Victor Beamish from Dunmanway in County Cork. The plane will be a full-size replica. It will be close on 30 feet long and with a 36-foot wingspan. And it'll be built in conjunction, as I said, with the Ballyduff and the Listowel Mint Sheds, and it will probably take the 12 months to get the project completed, but I'm very confident that we will actually have this plane sitting in Listowel Square next May.
Of all fair towns, few have so sweet a soul, all gentle folk, compassionate and true.
Listowel is kind of the poor relation from a different point of view, from a tourism aspect, and yet we have all around us in North Kerry and West Limerick a fantastic amount of military history going back to the medieval times. You come right back up to the early Desmonds, then you can come up with, say, to the First World War with the battery outside in Tarbert. You have Fort Shannon on the Shannon Estuary. It's absolutely amazing what's in North Kerry, Tarbert, the Bridewell, and we're trying to promote tourism from a different aspect, where people will meet local people and you'll meet the real people of Ireland.
I love you, sweet Listowel, and doff my distant cap always to you.
A proud military history here in Listowel, and that Listowel Military Weekend happens every year on the Maybank holiday. If you want to find out more about it, well, all the information is on the website, which is on screen now.